I've never said it was easy, but it's worth it. That's the thing is it so worthwhile? You want to be friends with your kids. You want to wallow in parenting. You want to look back and say it was the happiest time of my whole life.
3-year-old boy whines constantly for hours. We're losing our minds and it's starting to make us short-tempered and yell at each other. It has to stop.
You've trained them to do this, by the way. Whining is not something they're born to do. It's something that they've tried and it's worked.
Our 3-year-old is very defiant and struggling with his behavior. We feel like we have no control over the loudness and chaos and we're at our wits' end.
That's kind of tough because it's hard for parents to discern when he's mad and when he's just doing it to get attention. Welcome to the Bratbusters Parenting Podcast. My name's Lisa Bunnage. I'm a parenting coach. I'm a mom. I'm also a grandmother.
And I'm Amy Bunnage, Lisa's daughter, and I handle the marketing and planning here at Bratbusters. While I don't have kids, each episode will dive into parenting topics and Lisa will answer your questions. Let's get started.
Okay, sweetie, just a sec, before we get going, we've got some new equipment here. My poor daughter trying to deal with me with new equipment must be agony for her.
I'm also learning on the fly, so we'll see how this works out.
Okay, microphones are what we're dealing with here. Okay, so what are we talking about today when it comes to parenting?
Today's topic is the big parenting shift when your kids turn 3.
Oh, yes, the fork in the road.
The fork in the road. What do you mean by that?
I'm glad you asked. The fork in the road was when they turn about 3, like it's almost right at 3, actually, they can stop and think before they act. They're starting to develop the ability to reason. In other words, they'll stop and think on their 3rd birthday, they blow out the candles and then they go like this. Now, let me see, do my parents know what they're doing or not? So they'll either take charge or they'll get more in line. They'll just start to follow the rules more because they know you're a calm leader and you're going to have consequences if they make a poor choice. So it's that fork in the road. They've got you figured out. Are you a leader or aren't you? In other words, are they going to get easier or more difficult?
So how do you prepare in the toddler years for this stage then?
You use consistent corrective actions and you never want to yell. You never want to show anger, frustration, or disappointment. And you pick your battles too. If you don't want to battle something, don't pick it that week. So you pick one battle to sort of fix and get mastered. Like if you want to deal with tantrums, just deal with that in the first week and get your methods perfected, like how to ignore tantrums. Well, it doesn't have to be perfect. And then you can move on to the next thing that you want to sort of teach yourself how to deal with. It's not about them. They will follow. So it's not that the tantrums are going to go away on the first week, but your ability to deal with them will. So like we ignore tantrums, there's a way of doing it, by the way. So you start just using consistent corrective actions. Your leadership skills will be based on that through the toddler years. And you play with them a lot. You know, connection is 99% of parenting. Discipline is a very tiny part.
When you talk about the don't show anger, frustration, I know a lot of parents do feel like that is unrealistic.
Yeah, the thing is, once you get good at it, and once you do learn how to stay calm, it gets easier. It's like anything, a new skill that you're learning, it does get easier. But the learning curve is a big one.
And why is it harder if you do show those emotions?
You mean why shouldn't you show those emotions? Okay. If you show anger or frustration or disappointment in your child, it makes them feel bad. And the goal here is to make them feel accountable, and they can be mad that you're taking control, but you don't want them to feel bad. Like if you ever worked for someone, let's say you have a boss or a teacher that you really look up to, and if they looked at you and they looked really mad, how would that make you feel? Think about it. You know, we tend to almost treat our kids worse than everybody else. Like we don't tend to show that anger, frustration, and disappointment out in the world as much as we do with our kids. Okay. So think about that. So it makes them feel bad. And when they feel bad, they do bad. When they feel good, they do good. So we want them to feel good about themselves. That is the basis for all this leadership stuff, is that your kids feel good about themselves. They have high self-esteem. They like themselves.
And then how do you approach discipline? You have your boot camp split up into the 2 age groups. You have the toddler for 16 to 35 months. And then when they turn 3, you have the 3 to 12 boot camp. Why do you have it split up like that? And how do you approach discipline differently?
Okay, well, I already discussed the toddler. That's 16 to 35 months. That's consistent corrective action. So if they do something naughty, you say one word only. And it's just a trigger to show that you're going to take action, because it's all about actions. So you say no, and then you remove them from the fun or the fun from them. Or you might have to physically restrain them if they're biting or hurting themselves or something. And you just hold them for a minute or so, right? Just to keep them safe, basically. So that's toddlers. Now, when you hit 3 years old, that's when they can start to stop and think before they do anything. So You use the behavior board. Now the behavior board has everybody on it, you included, so long as everyone's 3 and over. Then you put down rules for everybody and consequences for everybody, just one per board. And then in week 2, you do another one. So you have a new rule for everybody. Then week 3, you have a new rule for everybody. Okay. So you're just focusing on one rule at a time, and there's a consequence. So they start to understand this. Now, don't make the consequence don't make that the focus here. A lot of parents say, what's a good consequence? What's going to make all the difference? Well, it's not the consequence so much as the follow through, the consistency. So the consequence, there's always 2 of them for the kids. It's the first one is a chore, something like, I don't know, clean a window or something. It should only take about 2 minutes. That's the positive action. So if they do something naughty, you get them to do a positive action. If they won't do that, and this is all my free behavior board, by the way, it explains how you do all this. And then if they won't do that positive action, then you resort to the negative deprivation. That's like 24-hour media blackout. So that's when you really take charge. They have control over the bad behavior. They have control over doing that first consequence. But then if both of those fail, like they do choose the bad behavior, they do choose not to do the first consequence, then you take control. So you're giving them 2 chances, 2 strikes, you're out, right? Not 3 strikes, but anyway. Is that the 3rd strike or the 2nd one?
You lost me. It's the 2nd, I think.
It's the 2nd one. It is. Okay. So the consequence now is like 24-hour media blackout. You have control over that 2nd one. You don't over the 1st one. It's important to give them a sense of control. You want to empower them to make amends, to make up for what they did wrong.
Now,
wait a minute, if I lost you, then I lost everybody else.
Well, no, I was thinking about a question I wanted to ask you.
Oh, okay. So you weren't paying attention is what you're saying.
That is correct.
Okay. We all zone out from time to time.
Do you double, triple, quadruple the 2nd consequence?
No. The reason is that when you go, so you have 2 consequences, positive action. If they won't do it, then you do the negative deprivation. That negative deprivation, a 24-hour media blackout, or whatever it is you choose, you take something away from them, right? So whatever happens in that 24 hours, your hands are tied. You can't do anything else. Okay. So you've already gone to the extreme, 24-hour media blackout. That's it. If they still act out, which they probably will initially, they'll keep acting out because they know there's nothing else you can do, right? They don't care. They're mad as anything. So in that 24 hours, when they do act out, you just say, well, that's why you've got media blackout. That's about all you can say. And you might say that a couple of times or just sort of keep looking at them knowingly. Well, that's what you don't always want to say that, but you can just look at them like shrug your shoulders. Well, that was your choice. You got 24-hour media blackout.
No, I'm just envisioning a parent go to reach for the remote and go, oh.
That's right. By the way, if they do have 24-hour media blackout, if that's the one you choose, you don't go on screens either. I think that's mean. Okay. So you do it with them.
You talk about that being such a great time as well to connect with your kid.
Of course. That's when you want to play games. They're not in the doghouse. A lot of parents do that. They're mad. Don't show any of that negativity. Just say, well, none of us are going to do screens now because you've got the media blackout, except the other kids can go in your room with a smaller screen if they are not, restricted. So then you say, how about we play a game? Younger kids will, older kids might not. That's okay. But just keep offering. Say, you want to play a game? No, I hate you. I hate you. Say, okay, never mind. Walk away. And then maybe a half hour later, you ready for that game now? You're like that loser friend in the playground. Keep trying to play with them. Just do it. Just keep going through. You want to play now? It's very hard to fight with a calm, loving person forever. You want to be a calm, loving parent, and they just won't fight you forever. They're going to put up a bit of a storm initially, though. For sure. Usually gets worse before it gets better.
Do you want to get into the parent questions?
Sure.
Okay, so we have the first one is Alyssa from the United States. My 3-year-old struggles with hitting his 2-year-old sister. His first consequence is usually to sweep the floor or clean up toys. His second is that he loses screen time or a specific favorite toy. It worked well for 2 to 3 weeks, then he started to not care at all about consequences. He will hit his sister and then say, take away my screens, very calmly. I've tried switching consequences and taking different toys or privileges away, but he continues to not care. How do I give consequences to a kid who accepts them so easily it doesn't even feel like a consequence?
Yeah, this comes up a lot in coaching. What's the 2-year-old sister doing? Is she antagonizing him? Is she bugging him? Do you have a system whereby he can go and play on his own somewhere where she can't bug him? Because oftentimes the younger one is bugging the older one, and then the older one retaliates. So in a way, they're almost the victim. So I would look into that initially. And then if he doesn't care about anything, you can continue to do that, continue to take away what he says he doesn't care about. Chances are he does care a little bit. Also, you play with them together after that. So you say, hey, how about the 3 of us go play, I don't know, go play somewhere, go to the park or something. You go with the 2 kids and you go play with them. And that is showing them how to get along with you. Okay. So I think he probably does care. He's just saying that. trying to get the better of you. But I think he probably does care. But also, what's she doing to antagonize him? Probably something.
Okay, the next one is Laura from Canada. I have a little guy who just turned 3 last month, as well as a newborn. Over the past few weeks, my husband and I have noticed that the 3-year-old has become bad at interrupting either of us when we're talking, but also when we're trying to have conversations with other adults, including important conversations with doctors and other professionals. He would loudly clamor all over us, asking us to grab something he wants or demand our attention. How do we best teach him that he needs to not interrupt us when we're busy talking to other adults? I was so embarrassed at my doctor's appointment last week. Love your content. Thanks in advance.
Okay, put on the behavior board. That's free on my website, bratbusters.com. Put down there, no interrupting. Okay, now be reasonable about this. If you never give him any attention, you're at home and you're just chatting to friends or your spouse all day long, you got to play with them, right? So obviously you probably are. But here's the thing. He won't always know when he's doing it. It's your job to signal him when he is interrupting. So what you're going to do is when he is interrupting inappropriately, he can interrupt if he's, needs something really desperately, but you say, I'll tell you what. So your rule is no interrupting. And when you do interrupt, you may not even know you're doing it initially, but I will just touch my nose or touch my chin, just have some kind of a signal to let him know he's interrupting. If he continues to interrupt after that, you say to him, okay, we'll discuss this later. And then maybe as soon as you're finished the conversation or as soon as you get home, then you say, let's go to the board. See my friendly tone? You never want to sound angry. Don't sound stern. Don't sound tough. That's not a leader. That's an authority. We don't do that. So you say, okay, let's go to the board. So you go to the board and you said, okay, now when we were at the doctor's office, remember you interrupted, I touched my nose, and then you continued to interrupt, just like on the board here, and draw pictures, whatever. He will learn as you go. He doesn't have to understand it all up front. He will learn as you go. So then you say, here's your consequence. Then you have a consequence. If he won't do it, then you do the second consequence.
Okay. The next one is Beck from Australia. So this isn't the whole question, but just one of them. My boys are 3 and 1, very spirited, high energy, and loud. Our parenting has been lacking in the calm and boundary holding department, which in turn now our 3-year-old is very defiant and struggling with his behavior. 3-year-old screams no, so ear-piercing screaming over and over a lot, and it triggers us bad. When our 3-year-old screams, he gets put in his room until he stops, as it hurts our ears and frightens the baby. However, I cannot say that word. Similarly. Yep. We are not always home when this happens and don't know what to do when out in public or in the car. We feel like we have no control over the loudness and chaos, and we're at our wits' end. Any suggestions would be greatly appreciated.
Or is it similarly? Is it similarly or similarly?
I just know people are listening and going, oh, geez.
Oh, you dummies.
You bunnage ladies.
You twits. Okay, anyway. So he's screaming. He's using that as his weapon. Okay, I wouldn't put him in his room. Now he's 3 years old. Now, I never put down attitude, but if he's high-pitched screaming all the time, I will put down no screaming on the board. Now, you got to be careful with this. If he's screaming when he's mad or he's screaming when he's happy, you got to decide if he's doing it just to sort of disturb things. So you can literally put down no screaming on the behavior board, but you got to be careful with that. If he's screaming during a tantrum, that doesn't count. Okay? If he's screaming when he's mad, it kind of doesn't count. But if he's just screaming to upset people, to get attention, then I would use that. It's a tough one, though. That's kind of tough because it's hard for parents to discern when he's mad and when he's just doing it to get attention. But if it's basically when he's just doing it to get attention, that's when you do it. So just put it on the board, and there's a consequence when he does. But there was something that she said about calm. We have a hard time being calm and following the boundaries or something.
Boundary holding.
Okay, so you weren't consistent. That is so important. You pick your battles. I would suggest you don't pick screaming right away, though. It is one of the tougher ones. So remember, it's only screaming when he's doing it for attention. You have to decide when that happens. Don't let him argue that. Okay. Anyway, I would start with something else first. And if after 2 weeks, so you go to the third behavior board, check out my free behavior board on my website. It explains all this, how to do the first 3 weeks. So I would put no screaming on the third week. So yes, you're going to have to go through 3 weeks of screaming, or 2 weeks at least, probably 3, or if not more. This isn't going to happen overnight because he's used to doing it and you weren't consistent. So put other stuff on the behavior board, and you're starting to exercise some leadership. He'll start to respect you more and hopefully start screaming less and less over a period of time. It's a tough one.
You've discussed this as well, and the idea that it may feel like if you're a parent and you're listening to this and you go, but that's the thing that I really want to work on. I don't want to work on putting their shoes in the cubby or something less intense.
I actually think I might have a good analogy for this. And I'm lousy at analogies. Actually, we both are. We're really bad at analogies. But
I can't wait to hear this one.
This one's pretty good. I use it all the time. And I've actually had parents who listen to me a lot and they say, you're really bad at analogies, but that one's not so bad. Okay, it's not great, but anyway, it's not so bad. So anyway, let's say you're learning how to fly a plane. And when the instructor shows you, let's say one instrument on the panel or whatever you call it, and then you say to him, but what I really want to do is fly. You're just not ready yet. That's you're not ready to fly. You've got to learn the instruments first. You got to learn the methods, the safety stuff. That's what we're doing here. We're just learning one instrument on the panel. Was that good?
It worked.
It works. Yeah, it's not great. Okay, but I use it all the time. It works. There you go. Okay. But that's what this is. You're teaching yourself the leadership, but you're starting easier. You're not flying the plane right away, which is the screaming, right? That's the big one.
You talk about it as well, is that you don't want parents to feel overwhelmed where they just give up.
And if you were to go after screaming initially, it's probably not going to work because you haven't got the skills yet, right? We're teaching you. I don't fix kids. I fix and teach parents here. So we're teaching you how to become a leader before you address the screaming. It's a big one. It is. It's not the biggest, but it's certainly up there.
Okay, the next one is Madeline from the United States. I have a 3.5-year-old and a 1.5-year-old. My 1.5-year-old is very strong-willed, but as you said, he's too young to really do much about. However, my 3.5-year-old, I feel I may be losing his strong-willed nature. I'm going through a separation and have lost my cool more than needed for the first couple of months we split, and it's been 10 months now. Before this, I was very much a leader and built him up and played in his world nonstop. He's very vocal and expressive in the best ways. He has moments, but less now. Is he outgrowing his tantrums, especially since he is easily understood by me, or is he beginning to please me more than he should? I'm not sure. I don't want to kill his spunk.
I don't quite understand that question. Like, is he out of control or is he just meek and mild because he's upset that you're divorcing and you're yelling too much? Is that the one?
I think that's the idea.
Sounds like that's more what it is. Okay, you have to control yourself. That is your job. Most parents yell when they first hire me, but that's your job as a parent to stop yelling. It is hard to do. I get it. But use the behavior board. It gives you an alternative, okay? And don't look back and feel guilty about it because guilt and shame only get in the way. And whenever I'm working with parents, they often want to tell me everything they're doing wrong. And I say, what's the point? Let's just move forward and do things right. Right? You know what I'm saying? So don't look back at what you did wrong. Don't look back at all the mistakes you've made. We've all make them, right? That's just part of life. But move forward in a calmer way by using my methods with the behavior board. That is the teaching tool. That's the training wheels with all this stuff. Because you're on there too. When kids feel respected, they tend to respect you more. And you're on that board. That's what makes it different from any other board. Well, if anyone else is putting parents on there, they might have taken my idea because I invented that 20 years ago. If you're not accountable for your actions, why should your kids be? Why? Doesn't make any sense. You should be punished for yelling. You should have to play hide and seek for 10 minutes if you yell, right? How are you going to learn not to yell if there's not a consequence? How are kids going to learn not to hit if there's not a consequence, right? And it's showing them respect. You give respect to get it. You don't demand respect, you command it.
I think this might be a good time to bring up because I've seen some comments kind of saying, well, it's easy enough to say, like, this is really hard. And I think that something you talk about is that this isn't easy.
I've never said it was easy, but it's worth it. That's the thing is it's so worthwhile. You want to be friends with your kids. You want to wallow in parenting. You want to look back and say it was the happiest time of my whole life, which I do. I loved it. I absolutely loved parenting. And it was fun. We just laughed a lot. And if my kids ever did anything, well, I was the one in trouble, let's face it. I was always messing up. I would always promise to do something and I'd forget. It's usually around cooking because I hate cooking. But yeah, it's worth it. Anything worthwhile should be hard, I think. I want to earn the good stuff. I don't want it handed to me. Okay, parents are thinking right now, what an idiot. I'd rather this be handed to me. I get it. I've never said it was easy, but it's worth it. And it gets easier. By the way, getting respect is really hard work. Maintaining it's a piece of cake. Once you've got it, you get it, and you just go, oh, I get it. It's about giving respect to get it. And it's not, we're not raising obedient soldiers. That's ridiculous. We want kids who have a voice, they have confidence, they're empowered. They say when they don't like what you've done, they'll actually say it. You know, they'll say, Mom, I don't think you were being very fair. Usually if my kids said that to me, they were always right.
For the record here, unlike my mom, I'd be happy with Lotto. I'm okay with that. I'm okay. You can hand it to me. All good.
It's funny because I often say, I don't want to win. Well, my mom and I used to laugh at this. We used to say, well, I like to earn what I get. I don't want to win lotto. And then we both say, no, I do. Yeah, that would be kind of fun. I wouldn't mind that handed to me. But anyway, a lot of stuff, most stuff in life that is worthwhile, you have to work for. And this is just one of them. But I'm here guiding you along the way. I've got thousands of videos. We've got the podcast. We're doing our best here to support you. It's more to give you confidence to get through the hard part. You got to get over that hump. It is hard.
And I'm sure all parents, if they're not going through this specific situation, all parents can relate to going through tough times, and still the parenting never stops. You're still a parent.
Well, you're 30, your brother's 35, and there's no parent. I don't have to discipline them or anything like that, but I'm still mom. I still worry about them. If anything happens, I'm worried about them. So it never ends. Once you have kids, it's for life. I'm not changing diapers. Well, my grandchild, but and then they give you grandchildren. They give you, the gift keeps giving, right? I love parenting, and now I got a grandchild. So, but it is a lot of work, and it never ends. The worrying never ends. The work does, but the worrying never ends.
Okay, we have the next one is Alyssa from the United States. I'm currently homeschooling my 3-year-old son and his friend who is also 3. My son is 3 in March and his friend is 3 in July. My son's been raised with a lot of principles I learned from you. His friend has been babysat since he was a couple months old. No structure, lots of TV time with 2 working parents. His friend has a lot of wild behavior, so screaming, running, jumping, and weird phrases he's picked up from TV. My son's now copying everything his friend is doing and tuning me out. What's your advice on how to keep structure in homeschooling, especially with a new influence from different parenting?
You see, the problem with this one is you're asking me how to control the other kid, and I don't do that. I only teach parenting. So, and also the stronger your leadership is, they're not influenced by anybody else because they're under your umbrella, and leadership makes them feel like the best. They're at their best when they're with the leader. They like themselves the most. So they're not swayed by other people. So it almost sounds like you want me to help you with the other kid. And I don't do that. I don't teach parents how to handle other people's kids is what I'm saying here. Okay. I don't teach homeschooling or anything, but if your leadership is cemented and you're a really calm leader, then your son will not be influenced by anybody else. That's how you know you're a leader, is when they're not influenced by other people. So work on your leadership skills. That's all I can give you here. I can't help you with the other kid at all because it's not your kid.
Okay, the next one is Joanna from England. I have an almost 3-year-old and an 8-month-old. We've been struggling with our 3-year-old pushing kids at daycare. When she used to do it with me at playgroups or the park, I would say no and remove her from the activity. Now she pushes when she wants to go home. I've asked her why she pushes, and this is what she says. It's that what the daycare staff have noticed as well. How do I rectify this situation or help them manage this?
So it's pushing, is that her? So she's aggressive towards others. Put on the behavior board, no hurting other people. That is her rule. And the daycare people report to you. They do whatever they do. Don't micromanage daycare, school, or anything. So you say, can you please tell me if she did get aggressive at school? Because I want to deal with it at home also. You can't do that with a toddler, but a 3-year-old's not a toddler. A 3-year-old's a preschooler. So you can deal with it later. Okay. So you say to her, okay, let's go to the board. So you pushed another kid at school. So here's your consequence.
She did say almost 3-year-old.
Almost 3-year-old. Well, is she in preschool? Did she say though?
Daycare.
Almost 3. I don't know. Almost 3. Well, I would say it's still okay. If she's like a month under, I would still put it on a behavior board. Yeah.
Okay. We have one final.
Oh, sorry. If she is 6 months, if she's only 2.5, which I doubt because she said almost 3, then you can't do anything about it. Okay. You just deal with any behavior that you see at home, but you can't delay the consequence. It has to be right in the moment.
Okay, we have one final question. So Tyler from Canada. 3-year-old boy whines constantly for hours. I'm willing to ignore it. My wife sits there offering him options for a distraction while I tell her to ignore it till he stops based off of your advice. However, he will freak out for hours. I'm willing to let him go without attention until he's done. At what point are we supposed to step in? When do we know if he's grumpy because he's tired or hungry, or if he is just hungry or tired and he won't tell us? He is very capable of forming complex sentences for a 3-year-old. We're losing our minds and it's starting to make us short-tempered and yell at each other. It has to stop.
So this is a whining thing? Just whining all the time. Okay. So you said you don't know if he's doing it because he's tired. Make sure he gets a lot of sleep. Make sure he gets enough food. Make sure you focus on all of his needs first. And if the whining is just around his wants, and you said he whines all the time, You said, but then they also said, yeah, I've tried your method. That's the method where you say to them, okay, so you whine a lot and you say, this is what it sounds like. Okay. And then you just mimic it a little bit, but don't be rude about it. And then you say, okay, you're probably not even aware you do it. Okay. Give him the benefit of the doubt. Okay. And he might not be. You've trained him to do this, by the way. He's learned whining is not something they're born to do. It's something that they've tried and it's worked. So you must have given it attention. You must have, maybe he did it initially because he didn't get enough attention or feel like he got enough attention. I'm not saying that's right, but anyway. So, but what I would do is I would say, every time you whine, I'm going to give you a signal. I'm going to touch my ear, touch my nose, whatever. And then if you continue to whine, I will be ignoring you, and then just fully ignore. But it sounds like they might have tried that. That's what I'm wondering.
So I'm almost wondering if possibly the advice that you give for tantrums was applied to whining.
Oh, okay. Yeah, whining's different from tantrums. Okay. So anyway, so then he continues to whine. Okay, but you've got to go in fast when he's not whining. That's the problem. You said he whines all the time. He can't be whining 24/7, right? So when he's not whining, and I mean it might be a microsecond, you dive in. Hey, do you want to play a game? You got to dive in and you got to connect with him. You got to be fast though. You got to be waiting for it. You're right. You got to be like a bullet. As soon as he stops whining, say, "Oh, do you want to go play a game? Or do you want to go to the park?" Then when he starts whining again, touch your nose and then ignore it. He's 3. He'll clue into this, but you got to be fast and consistent with this. This is the problem. I know it's hard, but it's worth it. Remember, just give yourself a whole week to address this and say, we're going to give this a go for a whole week and see how it goes. But yeah, you got to dive in with the positive stuff. I'm thinking maybe he doesn't get enough of that in the right time, in the right moment.
That was it for the questions, but just to circle back, what do you think the most important part of calm leadership is, especially as you're transitioning into this toddler to 3-year-old phase?
Well, there's a whole bunch of stuff. The most important thing is
the very most important. That's the only thing you can choose right now.
I would say connecting. It's always connecting and playing with them, but don't let you let them lead the play, but don't let them lead when you're going to play. So you say, okay, I'm going to play for 30 minutes now. So I'm going to start the timer and we're going to play for 30 minutes. Then they're the boss. They're in charge. It doesn't mean they can run around and pull out all the toys, but say, okay, we're going to play Lego. So they're in charge of how you play with Lego. Okay. So you give them that time and you time it. And then when the timer's up, say, okay, now I'm going to go hang up the laundry. And say it like that. Don't say, okay, stopping playing now. That's negative. You end with a positive. Okay, that was lots of fun. I'm going to go do the laundry. I'm going to go do the dishes or whatever. So yeah, you want to connect with them. Number 1 is connecting, but on your terms. What I mean by that is like I said, you are in charge of when you have time to play, but then they are in charge of the play. So don't let them just be grabbing your arm. Come on, come on, come on. Don't allow that. That's the demanding stuff. You don't want to give in to that, but you want to connect with them, play with them. Also, a lot of parents think, well, how much time do I need to spend on this? Can you just give me an exact time, Lisa? And I say, no, but what I did with my kids, they didn't have a playroom. I actually had a spare room I could have made a playroom. I didn't ever want to do that because I wanted my kids around me all the time. And while I was doing my own chores, I was still chatting with them and I was commenting on what they were doing. Now, a lot of parents don't like to do that. And you know why? They're worried that the kids will go, oh, you want to play now? Whereas my kids knew that just because I'm commenting on what they're doing doesn't mean I have time to go over and play with them. But I was chatting with them a lot. That's a lot of the connection. I always wanted them to know that I know what you're doing, and I think that's neat. So yeah, I was always talking to them, wasn't I?
I think that's neat.
It's cool.
Neato.
It's mint. I used to say mint back in the 70s, I guess it was. And I have an old friend. Oh, she's the same age as me. I don't mean it that way, but we've known each other since we were kids. And she goes, I remember when you went through your mint phase. Everything was mint. I'd forgotten that. But she goes, yeah, everything was mint. How embarrassing, eh?
Well, it's so funny because I used to think it was so funny when you didn't know the lingo. I don't know what teenagers are saying nowadays. I'm lost and I'm 30.
You're old. You're 30.
Oh, thanks, Mom.
You're old. And you know what was funny about that friend pointing that out is I said, oh, yeah, you know what you used to do? And I had nothing. I couldn't remember. Oh, yeah? Never mind. Anyway, so I think that's it. Do you have any more comments or? Okay, so leadership is kindness. It's not mean. It's about connecting more than anything else. So connect with your kids in their world. You don't have to stay in their world. Like what I mean by that is when you first jump into whatever they're playing, then you do what they're doing, but then you can show them other ways of doing stuff. So you always enter in their world. But then you can show them other ways of doing Lego, so you can give them different ideas, but you want to kind of mimic them, especially when they're young. Mimic what they're doing. That's the best way to enter their world. Anyway, thanks so much for joining us. We'll be back again soon talking about another parenting topic. Happy parenting.
Thanks for tuning in. If you're ready to dive deeper, check out bratbusters.com to learn more about the Behavior Board, parenting courses, and private one-on-one coaching with Lisa. If you've enjoyed the show so far, we'd love it if you could take a moment to follow, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps us reach more parents just like you. The information provided in this podcast is for general informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for professional advice. Lisa is a parenting coach, mom, and grandmother. She is not a licensed psychologist or counselor. Her services do not replace the care of psychologists or other healthcare professionals. For a full disclaimer, please visit bratbusters.com/disclaimer.